We always like to say, if we can get people into the park, we win. That's what helps drive us in terms of a lot of our programming. So you have families, parents, grandparents, that's multi-generational. Grandparents are bringing the grandkids. That's just all part of the fabric of life, if you will.
Welcome to episode 99 of the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Skimmon. I want to take a moment to recognize the LorainCounty.com champion sponsors: Lorain County Community College, Lorain County Commissioners, Lorain County JVS, WOBL Radio, Emerge Inc., and Community Foundation of Lorain County. Today, we are talking with Jim Ziemnik, Director of the Lorain County Metro Parks. Join us as Jim talks about the history and mission of the Lorain County Metro Parks, its growth to over 11,000 acres across 35 parks, and its impact on the quality of life in Lorain County. He also shares insights into his role, his leadership style, and the organization's goals for conservation, recreation, and education, along with future expansion strategies. As a young boy, I spent many days in Mill Hollow at the Vermilion River Reservation, day camp and nature programs in the summer, and sledding in the winter. As an adult, I've spent hundreds of hours hiking and biking just about every Lorain County Metro Parks trail available. When our kids were little, we visited almost every playground in the county, many of which were part of the Metro Parks system. Professionally, Lorain County Metro Parks played an important role in Emerge's early growth and long-term success. More than 20 years ago, former Director Dan Martin came to us with a vision for enabling residents to reserve shelters and sign up for programs online. Since then, Emerge has worked with more than 22 city and county park systems to support online registration and engagement. Green space and parks programs are critical to a strong community. They support physical and mental health, provide accessible recreation for all ages, preserve natural resources, and create shared spaces that bring people together. Lorain County Metro Parks plays a vital role in delivering these benefits across our county. One quick note, this episode was recorded in late December. Like many people at the time, I was recovering from a cold, so I apologize in advance for how my voice sounds. Here is my conversation with Jim Ziemnik.
Jim Ziemnik. I am the Director of the Lorain County Metro Parks.
Welcome, Jim. Thanks for joining us and sharing your insights. To begin, could you provide an overview of the Lorain County Metro Parks?
Lorain County Metro Parks in existence since 1957. We are responsible to take care of over 11,000 acres of land. We have about 35 different parks, facilities, reservations, and we have a staff full-time. Right now we're down a little bit. If we have a couple of retirements and people have moved on, but we're somewhere about 90 full-time. And in the summers with summer seasonals, lifeguards, we get up to over 200.
Could you provide an overview of your role and responsibilities as the director of the Lorain County Metro Park?
My role is pretty much overseeing everything. I review the budgets. I approve the budgets. I am instrumental in the capital planning. That's a major function. Any initiatives going forward, any land donations, land acquisitions, all come through me. It's just the day-to-day, oversight of the operations. I have some really incredibly good, gifted people. I have two assistant directors. One is operations, Paul Ruby. He oversees our day-to-day operations in the parks. And then Jennifer Bracken handles a lot of the administration and oversees a lot of the naturalists and programming, stuff like that.
At a big picture level, what's the long-term impact the Metro Parks is working to achieve?
I always like to say this, we are in the quality of life business. Okay, what we bring forward, I think, improves the quality of life for the citizens and the residents of Lorain County and beyond. Our goal, our long-term perspective is to continue to preserve, conserve the natural resources and utilize that to the best of our ability to share with the citizens and the residents to improve quality of life. We just continue to strive to be as much as we can be to the residents and the citizens. We can't be all things to all people all the time, but we certainly give it our best try to do as much as we can in, again, preservation, conservation. And if I could back up a second, we talk about our history or overview. Metro Parks are created under Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 1545. Okay, that's the basis for all metropolitan park districts in Ohio, from Cleveland Metro Parks to Summit to Erie to Medina. So we are, more so than anything, we are a subdivision, political subdivision of the state of Ohio. We're not a county agency. We work with everybody. We work with the county. We work with the cities. We work with the villages and townships, but we are not part of county government. And that's the historical basis. And that's the rationale for the founding of any metropolitan park district. Okay.
You mentioned the park district was created in 1957.
Correct.
What can you tell us about how it got started and how it grew over the years?
Again, it was really the first reservation. Big donation was down in Vermilion River Reservation, which is now the Carriage Barn and Francis Bacon House. That family made a sizable donation, and that was the founding of the Lorain County Metro Parks. The first director was Henry Meinert. I am only the fourth director since 1957. It was Henry, and then Carl Crapo, and then Dan Martin before me, and me since 2012. And that's the founding of it, and then it just grew from there. It's funny to look through some archives of how things were built and funded. They just had really a handful of employees. It's what they did. It was donation, like as an example, like the big wooden spools of wiring you might see for when they're going to do a major project for CI, but telephone cable. They used those. They pulled the nails out of those, and they used the lumber to build tables and benches and stuff like that. And there was a lot of use of, obviously, like scouting, the National Guard did a lot of the early work where they built tables, donated time. There was, historically, we now have our own ranger department, separate part from the deputy's office, the sheriff's office. But the original law enforcement component was, in fact, the Lorain County Sheriff's Department.
Let's talk about your parks. You have locations throughout the county, and
Yes, we do.
including as far north as Lakeview Park and Charlemont on the southern border of Lorain County.
Correct.
How do you think about serving communities across the entire county in such a wide geographic and demographic area?
And somewhat, Ed, that's the fun of it, is that each park, each part of the county has a very, I think, a uniqueness to it, something special about it. You drew those two examples of Lakeview Park up in the city of Lorain along the shores of Lake Erie, all the way down to Charlemont and the extreme southern part of the county. It's out in the more open, historically rural areas. It would just be trails. We wouldn't try to replicate something like a Lakeview. Obviously, we couldn't because of the beach, the Lake Erie, but it's a whole different sort of criteria. Lorain County, across the board, geologically, we're a very wet area. We have a lot of wetlands. We're very successful in building wetland projects, mitigation projects that we generate by selling credits. So that's how we got Wellington built, Sandy Ridge built, Columbia Reservation, and the list goes on. So each part of the county is different in how we approach it, what we can bring to it. From wildlife to the ecology, it's all very diverse, and that's quite candidly the fun part of it. And you just try to satisfy and try to provide a different park and a different environment, different experience for people in every part of the county.
Over the past few years, the Metro Parks has expanded its footprint in lots of areas, including more in Vermilion and Avon. Looking ahead, how do you think about park expansion strategy overall, and what factors guide your decision about where to grow the parks?
Right now, and this showed up, I think, in some of the early feedback from when we did the last levy in November of 2023. We did get feedback from certain parts of the county, as an example, Columbia, where they're getting a lot of pressure now for some development, subdivisions and all that stuff. And those group of residents would say, boy, we'd really love if you could help buy up and preserve a lot of this land. So you get that experience. So that's a factor that we look towards. Again, certain things are more appropriate. Like in Columbia is a wetland, so it's hard to build in Columbia for construction. It's a very good experience. Again, something to achieve to try to preserve the wetlands. It's very environmental. It's that preservation, conservation resources versus a community like Avon, as again, another example, North Ridgeville. They're undergoing what I affectionately call, and I say that with no malice intended, but I call them the Eastern Seaboard, okay? You got Avon, Ridgeville, Avon Lake. And when I mention Columbia, that's along the eastern edge. It borders Ridgeville. And they are experiencing a lot of pressure for development, a lot of people pushing in from Cuyahoga County. So Avon is one example. Ridgeville also serves that way, where they're looking to preserve some open space, okay? Certainly Avon, and I'm going to credit the mayor and council, the leadership out there is we work very closely together for parcels of land that would make good sense to acquire, preserve. They don't It's not that they don't want to, but they're trying to, I think, get a better control of subdivision growth. But that's also, they're very wary of city services and schools. North Ridgeville has experienced a lot of growth in the last several decades, and they are respectfully and sympathetically, they're struggling to keep pace with their schools. And that's a function of a lot of young families move in there.
Yeah, we talked with the superintendent who mentioned that specific. They've expanded so much that it's beyond what the school's capacity is, that they're looking to expand the school to meet the number of families.
Right. And Avon, I think, probably saw that, my guess, on speculation, but I know they're not anti-development. Don't misread that. And I don't want to speak for Mayor Jensen or Avon City Council, but they're aware of it. We'll talk all the time. I have a regular conversation with Mayor Jensen. Among all the mayors, I have I think a very good, healthy relationship with a number of the mayors and trustees throughout the county, but they're very aware of land. And if you take a community like Avon as an example again, historically, a lot of agricultural. So you have a lot of old families up and down State Route 83. So you have families now who have these very large parcels of land and they're looking to sell it. Maybe the grandchildren or the great-grandchildren aren't interested in farming anymore. So then they're looking to sell it off. And those are the conversations I have with a great number of the mayors. And is there a way that can be acquired, preserved, trails? Can we preserve some wetlands? One of the great advantages to wetlands is it's very environmentally and ecologically, I think, appropriate in many ways. We have a lot of waterways and creeks. We have French Creek, and we have the Black River and the Vermilion River, and a whole lot of ditches and tributaries to that. If we can help capture, as we know, like I said, I refer regularly what I call the reigns of biblical proportions going back to 2014, Mother's Day around there, where there's flooding so pervasive throughout the county. Communities like Avon Lake Ridgeville were literally 6 feet underwater. That was so much water, and a lot of that is generated by runoff, is development. So if we can be part of a solution where we can, in terms of acquiring land, constructing wetlands, that's going to help create some temporary detention, if you will, helps clean the water. It's a stormwater management tool, and you get into water quality and quantity to help clean things up, clean it up, create more, I think, environment. We have a very active and wonderful birding community, wildlife community. We have a great staff of naturalists who interpret that. So if we can be part of that, I think, again, it brings to the quality of life. Two of our most popular parks are Sandy Ridge and North Ridgeville for the birding community, and then Columbia down in Columbia Station. It's a wonderful, diverse group. And again, you get a lot of people who go to visit and appreciate it. And that's just all part of who we are, what we do.
You may have already answered this, but I know a number of your park locations have been donated from local developers, including Koff Builders, Castle Enterprises, Miller Homes. How do these partnerships create value for both the community and the developers involved?
It certainly brings value to the community. Again, you mentioned Koff. Bucky and Joanne Koff over the years have been wonderfully, I think, generous. The Koffs donated Cherry Ridge Golf Course, the 9-hole course in Elyria, to us. It's a 9-hole course. It's a small municipal kind of grade golf course. It's right along the Black River. I can't speak for Bucky and Joanne at the time. It was a regular golf course, but I looked at it and went, boy, if this doesn't pan out as a golf course, it's right along the Black. It's a big oxbow in the Black. This would be a great wetland and stormwater filtration. Well, lo and behold, it really has boomed as we took it over, gave it a little extra TLC, staffing it, and we had some expertise because of Forest Hills out here and took care of it, and the place is just jam-packed all the time. It's a very affordable 9 holes of golf for senior citizens. It's a great place for younger people to learn the game, very affordable way to do that, and also people who are just starting the game. It's been a wonderful godsend, a gift from above, if you will. So those type of things with those donations. Koff Family Reservation up in Avon Lake. It's a very popular park. People love to go there for their walks. That people appreciate what they have right there within their community. It's also, I think it's just pervasive of a lot of life in general, but people love their dogs. And it's here, I think all of our parks, the only place we don't actively allow dog walking is Sandy Ridge because of the waterfowl, because of the birds. Columbia is seasonal because during migratory, we can't let people take their dogs through there. But, it's a great place for people to go and walk and get some life. We work closely with the health district, Cleveland Clinic, about quality of life and being healthful. And I joke I'm on a steering committee that's led by the health district. We call it the CHIP and the CHA, the Community Health Assessment and the Community Health Improvement Plan. And I like to joke with all those steering committee members that parks are really a solution to a lot of your problems. If for all the people who say, yeah, you should go out, like a doctor who says you should go out and walk and get some exercise, there's a park. Okay. And we are in every community. Go take a walk and go jump on a bike. We have bikeable paths. We have a lot of that. So we are part of that, certainly that fabric of the community and way to get healthy.
Inside most of your parks, you have reservable spaces.
Correct.
Can you talk about the different types of rentals you offer?
Here in this room, so here we are at Carlisle Reservation, the Black River Room. This is a very popular place for people to rent for graduation parties, wedding showers, birthdays. I think obviously we have a lot of shelters. A number of our facilities, so Lakeview, we have the big Sunset Terrace room. That gets rented a lot for weddings, retirements, etc. Sandy Ridge and Amherst Beaver Creek have those buildings are rentable spaces within it where we get a lot of meetings, Boy Scout meetings, Girl Scout meetings, birthdays, retirements, all that fun stuff.
I was thinking I've been to birthday parties at every place you mentioned.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. They're in Wellington. We've got a nice rentable space down there. It's the shelters, which is, again, from birthday parties to retirements to whatever they want it to be. We try to bring that diversity of rental spaces. We get a lot of requests for it. We got requests to say, can you build something bigger? And I think we have to keep our focus on what the park district's about. We're not in the rental hall business, so we don't build bigger buildings to have bigger spaces for people to rent. When you have stuff like the college and Elyria High School has a performing arts, and they're going to be cautious about the size of the space, what they're going to do with it. But I think it's wonderful that things are coming together and people can rent these spaces.
In addition to your parks and facilities, the Metro Parks is known for your extensive program offerings.
Yes.
From educational programs to theater programs to health and wellness. How do you think about programming strategy and how do these programs support your overall mission?
They certainly serve the mission relative to the preservation, conservation, people having a greater, I think, understanding and appreciation of ecology, environment, the wildlife. We got a very large birding community. We do birding programs here. We have the Raptor Center right here within the facility, and it's wildly successful and popular. We get a lot of school groups, and I think, I don't want to say a sign of the times, but becoming more popular where you're getting homeschoolers and they form their own little groups and clubs. So they'll make requested programs relative to birds and other mammals. So again, it's things that I think are compatible. What we've evolved our theater program, our fine arts program, we believe arts are certainly a part of a mission and getting people understanding the arts, but how they relate to nature. And I think our staff over at French Creek has done a very nice job in getting things a little more compatible. There was a point in time where things were getting a little too Broadway-ish, if you will. And again, I think the current staffing has done a wonderful job of keeping it consistent. They'll do a themed program, as an example, around Halloween time that has something to do more with into that season. They're going to be doing holiday kind of shows now. And again, that's also a nod to our demographics here. We're an aging demographic, and we have a lot of senior citizens and people who appreciate music and we get some Dean and Frank imitators kind of thing. Those shows, plural, are wildly popular. And again, a lot of our programming, especially like at Lakeview, Mill Hollow, Carriage Barn, Miller Nature Preserve out on the patio, is another way to bring people into the park. We always like to say, if we can get people into the park, we win. That's what helps drive us in terms of a lot of our programming, where we say to the naturalists and the staff managers, let's get them programmed, come up with ideas, draw people into your park. So you have those people who are going to come, families. We got the Butterfly House out at Miller, which is super successful. Okay? Parents, grandparents, and again, it's multi-generational. Grandparents are bringing the grandkids, especially during the summertime, because that's just all part of the fabric of life, if you will.
I'll give you a playhouse story. My son, in like third grade, came home. They went and toured it from school, and he couldn't believe how amazing it was. And have you ever discovered this? And we were like, we were there for the groundbreaking when they opened it, but we let him have his moment.
Yeah, and it is. And again, I think the staff out there has historically done a very nice job. We took the original Butterfly House. We've already actually made it bigger, a little bit bigger and better. It's just one of those, you kind of kick the tires, and it's wonderfully successful and popular, and it gets people into the park, get them to appreciate more about nature and the things that we can offer. It's right
Sure.
along the shores of French Creek, which starts to tell a story. Our history and our parks are about just
Sure.
telling the story. There's a history there.
How is the Metro Parks funded? What are your main sources of funding?
The main source are levies, a levy campaign. We do have certain fee-based things. Again, we have the Splash Zone and the Amherst Healthplex, which are for more health and fitness kind of places. So those are memberships or daily uses. Splash Zone has the outdoor pool, indoor pool, and the golf courses charge. Obviously, you can't go play golf for free, but the greens fees there, the memberships, the fees start to offset. And again, it's our goal there just to make those revenue neutral. We're not asking the taxpayers to basically subsidize a lot of that activity there. But again, the taxpayers, the levy funds are what pay the staff, which allows us to do programming, which allows us to help make with some land acquisition, build trails, all that stuff. But primarily, it's a levy function.
From your perspective, what's the biggest challenges the Metro Parks is facing right now?
You're probably hearing this everywhere, Ed. The challenge, I think, from across the board, especially anybody who's property tax dependent, are the things that are going at the state legislature. Those are going to present some challenges in the coming years, like I think starting here in 26 as to what that's going to happen with budgets. And they've already limited. We're on the ballot every 9-10 years. And that's all we ever asked to come back. We put together those kind of long-term plans. But Metro Parks, with the exception of Cleveland Metro Parks, all Metro Parks are limited. They're capped out. You can't go more than $2 million total levy. We try to keep it as a renewal. Nothing, Ed, as you know this, nothing ever drops in costs. We still are consumers of electricity and gas. We have a staff who have health care. No costs ever stay the same. And that's hard. Even myself, moving towards the senior years, we're sensitive as, again, we work with the college, we work with the libraries and trying to coordinate. It's a tough sell to ask people to pay more. But I think, again, they're already putting a lot of restrictions that are happening in the state legislature. I think in some ways it's a knee-jerk response. So it's going to make it tough. And I think just talking among some of my colleagues, and I was just down in Columbus last week with a statewide park district directors meeting, there will be pain. Some park districts, I think we've historically, all the directors, we're very fiscally responsible because we have to be. We try to control our costs, control what we're doing, staffing levels. And it's easy sometimes to pull, I'll just add a couple of people, just to hire a couple. Anybody in terms of personnel-wise, personnel are our largest costs. I love to have more people available to help do more things. But toughest thing to do is it's hard to say no to staffing, to say, I'd love to have for another full-timer, but we can't. Worse is having to lay somebody off, cut them loose. You hire them on, you bring them on, you say, oh, we don't have the funding anymore. That may be a coming storm, I think, for us. Let me go back to state legislature. They've already limited to that you can't do a replacement levy. So what we were looking at in that last levy cycle, our levy amount, our millage was based on 1990s era valuations. I think you can attest that valuations skyrocketed. And I'm a taxpayer too. I'm a homeowner too. I'm like, my house is worth what? And that's tough. But God love Craig Snodgrass and all the auditors. They got a job to do based on what their demands from the state. That's a tough sell. Why? And then the question is like, why are these things going up so much? That kind of ties back in respectfully to some of the things about housing. And we talk about the communities like Avon Lake and Avon and Ridgeville and everywhere, and Elyria, all the communities that Columbia, you take what maybe a home may have been worth, say, just for example, $250,000 back 10, 15 years ago. That same house today being built would probably be in excess of $500,000. What does that do to everybody else around it? It's raising everybody else's property values. When you go to sell, that's great. But if you're just trying to make ends meet, that's a tough sell.
You want the house to appreciate just in that last year before you sell it. Never, no the years before.
Isn't that the truth?
Okay.
Isn't that the truth?
What do you see as the biggest opportunities for the Metro Parks?
We still continue to build trails, connectivity. And that's one thing you talked about, the strategy in reviewing a parcel of land or related to that. We look for connectivity. If we can connect parks and trails and we're connecting people, that's a great opportunity. And I think there's more of that to be had. We work also, again, with NOACA, the Northern Ohio Area Coordinating Agency, which is the conduit for a lot of federal highway funds. And again, the funds that we get, it's built a lot of the Black River Trail for us. It's currently going to be building some trail out to connect Avon into Sheffield. Ultimately, the goal there is to get Miller Nature Preserve. Avon's got some parcels of land, and then get all that connected to French Creek Reservation in Sheffield. And I don't think we're that far away. Going back to an opportunity is the lakefront. That's one of my big challenges right now. It's not working with the city of Avon Lake, but we're actively involved working with Avon Lake on the old power plant. I believe very strongly if we can give people access to the water. I preach this all the time, that there's 5 Great Lakes, and here in Lorain County, we have 26 miles of lakefront, of Lake Erie in our front yard. How can we better access that, preserve it, help keep it clean? We're working very actively with Avon Lake on that project. It's challenging. It's not so much Avon Lake. The mayors, both plural, worked with Mayor Zilka prior and now Mayor Spetzel and their staff. They've been wonderful to work with. Avon Lake City Council has been great to work with. But you're taking a 100-year-old coal-burning power plant, and that's presented some challenges.
How do you measure success at the Metro Parks? What are the metrics and outcomes that are important to you, your leadership team, and the board?
We take a lot of great pride in always looking to increase our reach, our visitation. We track as best we can the number of our visitors in our parks. That's an important metric to us. Again, an important number, so to speak, is our budget, is our financial considerations and how we keep things allocated and budgeted and fees that we charge. That's all important. And again, if we have opportunities to preserve more land year by year, at this point, I don't think it's so much of a goal to say go from this number to that number, but I think it's just about keeping an eye open for opportunities when it becomes available, is to look at that. We're not really aggressively seeking anything. We're very respectful of private property owner. Again, we'll work with the cities, the communities, the townships. If they bring something forward, we will certainly work with them to see if we can help acquire it and preserve it. But I don't think we're driven so much anymore, especially in the last few years, working with the board. It's about finding the right opportunities. And it goes to just keeping an eye on, don't accept land or buy land just to buy it and have it. We're not here to be hoarding any land. We don't want to do that. Can we find an opportunity? Is there a good reason for us to own it relative to trails, wildlife, wetlands, whatever? So we have Columbia Reservation. And then more than a few years ago, we had an opportunity. The old Dorland Golf Course down there came forward, and we worked in that case. They had contacted the Western Reserve Land Conservancy on that one. And so we were able to work together, get a grant application together through Clean Ohio program, and we were able to acquire the Dorland Golf Course. And that's a future every year. We try to continue to build more trails. But on the map, you look at the big picture, it's not that far from our Columbia Reservation. There was, again, we talk about development, there was a very large, substantial piece in between that would have been nice to acquire. It would have brought us that much closer to having those connected, but that was private property. And that family, respectfully, wanted what we considered to be a very large asking price. It was a very wet area. It was agricultural, that they had been drain tiling the bejabbers out of it. I'll just tell you a quick story. When we were touring the property, we're driving and all of a sudden you're seeing like these little geysers. Like, the heck? What it was drain tile. There was so much water, and it hadn't rained in probably over a week, 2 weeks, but there was so much water and all the pressure was popping little holes in the drain tile, and these things were spouting up in the air. I worked very closely with the Trust for Public Land, and it was trying to help us generate some money for that. Again, we don't try to use a lot of levy money for acquisition. We'll do that if we can get, say, an 80% funded by them. We'll take 20%, try to generate some donations there to help acquire the land. But in that case, it was another group who they came from out of state. They contacted me after they acquired it. They were hell-bent on acquiring it for wetlands, and they paid the full sticker price for it, which is good. And I'm glad they were able to preserve that, but it was a price that just wasn't going to work for us here at the Metro Parks. And to make that ask of the citizens, that was just a lot of money.
Let's switch over and talk about you. What's your background and what led you to Lorain County Metro Parks and the role of director?
I have a bachelor's in landscape architecture, went to school for landscape architecture, practiced landscape architecture for a number of years. I was state licensed. I've let that lapse because of time and continuing education requirements that I haven't been able to keep current with my landscape architecture license, but keep a very active role in that. So that's ultimately what brought me here. I had historically Worked for the city of Cleveland for about 13 years. I was in with a group down in Akron, private practice. They were doing a lot of streetscapes throughout the state. I was at Geauga Park District for about 5 years and doing parks and design and overseeing projects there. And then, respectfully, Dan Martin, my predecessor, the former director, found me and we struck up a conversation. And I came here in '05. Did a lot of great projects together. We built trail here. That's when we did Lakeview. Wellington, it's a pretty extensive list that we worked on together. It was great. I love what I do and what we do together. As the kind of years roll on, 2011 into 12, he was looking to retire. Had a conversation with him and the board and said, would you like to be the next director? And I said, I'd love to be the director. So I love it. What I bring and the staff brings is a strong sense of that good design, preservation, making it accessible, usable. It's about the people. How can we reach the people and do a better job? And I love what I do, and I love the staff I have who are really dedicated people. They love what they do.
In your career, what are you most proud of accomplishing?
The pinnacle, so to speak, is I got to become the director and have that level of oversight and influence. I think throughout the state, knowing other park districts, it seems like every director has a different sort of background. But I can easily name 3 other park districts in the state who are led by landscape architects. We're former landscape architects. Summit County, Mill Creek out in Youngstown, Great Hamilton down in the Cincinnati area. They are led by landscape architects. I think it's just that brings that sort of overview. It's good design and a wise use of the resources. I think we're a very people-oriented type of profession.
What would you still like to accomplish?
I'd love to see this Avon Lake power plant. It's a major initiative. And I think that would be a wonderful project that would be on the shores of Lake Erie. It's a 46-acre site, of which about half of that is going to be public park, public beach in Avon Lake, working with the city of Avon Lake on what they want to do and what we'd like to do together. I think that'd be a major accomplishment. And again, continuing to look for more opportunities for connectivity, building more trails. When I said that Avon Lake project, it's one of my major challenges. If we could just ever break through with railroads like Norfolk Southern, where they're just so pervasive, trying to work with them to say, look, you've got these old rail lines that just, and don't say the word abandoned to a railroad person. It's not abandoned, it's just not used. You have all these miles and miles of old rails that aren't being used. Do you think we could have a conversation about acquisition or donation or easements or licenses? That would be a major breakthrough. And I think if we start to do that, it's like blink your eyes and we'll have that many more miles of trail, including those one I've been working on is City of Avon would love to get trails connected to Crusher Stadium. And then from Crusher Stadium straight up into Avon Lake. And all of a sudden now you've crossed Crushers into Avon Lake. There's a section of Norfolk Southern that isn't being used, and that would be a super easy way to get right to the lakefront. That rail line used to go to the coal burning power plant. It supplied coal, and it's not being utilized right now. And it's a challenge, trying to be respectful. So you got Poly One, who's a neighbor, the whole group of people, and they use a small spur of that. We're saying, look, we do not want to impact. That's so huge to the economy of Avon Lake and the community and the county. We're not looking for that spur, but boy, there's a couple of miles there, like right there. And again, we continue to work. We're active with NOACA. I guess it was formally approved by NOACA over the summer. It was a couple of year-long process of all the metropolitan park districts. So us, Cleveland, Medina, Lake County, Geauga County, these are all the NOACA areas, the 5-county NOACA Regional Planning Agency. And they actually funded it and helped organize, hiring a consultant for us to work together to find, are there ways that we can connect our trails to, say, Cleveland's and from Cleveland's to Lake. We have a couple of projects in conjunction with Cleveland Metro Parks where we'd love to start to see some connections made from Lorain County. So Avon Lake, Avon, like the clinic is one prime example. Cleveland Clinic, that's a whole separate story, trying to work with Dr. Stark and her staff and helping get people, employees and patients, not so much patients, to try to be respectful that they're not going to walk or ride a bike to the hospital. But could we, if you look at the big map, if you just go down, parallel that, and there's Just Imagine Drive that never got built all the way through, that would take you to Cuyahoga Community College in Westlake. So working with the Cleveland Metro Parks staff and our staff and say, is there a way that we can connect a trail there as one example? You've probably seen some of the signs. There's a US Bike Route 30, US Bike Route 230, and that's certainly throughout the state. It's a wonderful resource to bring visitors, to transport, move around the county, but also bring visitors in. It's amazing to me the number of people who go on these cross-country or very large regional bike trips and the amount of money they spend, which is great. We think we've got a great thing going on here in Lorain County. We love to get people in here. So if we can get more of those trails built, connected, continue to work with other agencies and cities and development, but bringing that back to 30. So right now there's a US Bike Route 30, which comes out of Huron County, which we're partner with the group out there, the Firelands Rails to Trails group, and other park districts for this North Coast Inland Trail. It's pretty much already makes it close to Toledo. We got mile marker 00 up in Lorain at the Port Authority. And so that's the start of it. So the moral of the story is technically you can go from close to Toledo and go close to 100 miles along a designated trail bike route and goes up Black River and goes up and terminates or starts at the port in Lorain. We'd love to see more of that, branches off of that, continue to work with the communities to get them connected. It's a little bit cyclical here with some, I think, leadership at the federal level and what they're funding. But if we can continue to generate, and I firmly believe, and I have these discussions with NOACA as a regional planning, certainly in Ohio and along Lake Erie and Lorain County, we're primed for, I think, a renaissance, if you will. If you look around the country, environmentally, we don't have hurricanes here in this part of the state or in Ohio. We have plenty of fresh water to drink, as long as we don't suck it dry and Canada get mad at us, okay? We don't have wildfires. I call it the Dorothy Wizard of Oz thing. We need not look further in our own backyard to find our own heart's desire. We've got it all going on right here. And I think Mayor Bradley, among others, has done a superior job. Mayor Brubaker and Elyria. Lorain isn't a steel-making plant anymore. It's still there. Bad pun, but that barge has sailed, so to speak. Look at the assets we have. Look at what we have in Lorain with the Black River and Lake Erie, and Elyria with Cascade Park and the Black River, and Avon with the Long French Creek, and Avon Lake with Lake Erie. I think we have some wonderful assets, okay? And I think we're primed if people pull together and move away from some parochialism, some sort of backyard regionalism, and come together. I think we have amazing things to offer, and I think we have a great quality of life to offer. And I'll just throw this quickly in about Avon Lake and the families, the communities there. I mentioned earlier Avon and like the whole Poly One family. They've come forward during the process and talked about quality of life, and they're going after the MIT kind of grads, University of Chicago, Case Western, and they're trying to get them to basically reside here. And they're saying, what do you have here for a younger person who wants to go out there on the lake or wants to be on a trail system? And I think that's where we really do play a role in economic development, economic retention and attraction, to say, we are an amenity. Look at the great things that we can all come together and offer.
How would you describe your leadership style? Who or what has influenced your approach to leadership the most?
I'd call myself the sum total of the experiences. Working with the mayors, I've worked down in Geauga Park District. Every place I've worked, from City of Cleveland and a commissioner and a park director there in Geauga, I think each of those people have influenced on how I lead and how I treat people. And again, it is about people. We're in the people business, and just making sure that you're treating people fairly, trust them, build trust. And I think that's a large part of being a successful organization.
Outside of work, what are your interests and hobbies, and how do they help recharge you?
I have a wonderful family, a wonderful wife. Now my children are all grown. My youngest actually is coming home for the holidays, but now lives in Honduras. She works for, her and her husband both work for the federal government, and they're currently in Honduras, but they're going to be going over to Africa in a couple of years. So I enjoy that time. I just enjoy being around, going around the county. I don't have any real hobbies per se, but I stay busy enough. I love to read. I love to try to keep current as much as I can with environmental issues, ecological issues. I joke about it, and I shouldn't, but Mayor Bibb, they're tiffing everything. He just tiffs all of Cleveland. We're involved, and that's a big deal here in Avon Lake, where they're generating the funds from a TIF, tax increment financing. I had an opportunity to sit on a webinar with NOAA, the Oceanic, it's a federal organization, and they have sessions on TIFs and fundraising and all this stuff. And I'm like, I never knew TIFs could be part of our world. So I think I spend a lot of my free time just trying to keep current on that. I don't know if it's gotten much play here. I just want to say it's another sort of a pet thing, and it's a wake up. One of the things that we've gotten the staff engaged in is plastics, microplastics in Lake Erie and our waterways. Cleveland.com has certainly run a series recently, but this issue's been going on for years. We don't sell plastic bottles, water bottles, or any beverages in plastic anymore. We can sell water in paper cartons. It's all part of our mission to help educate people. I think it's a coming storm, if you will, about the volume of plastics, microplastics in our water. There's a group that came out of Case Western a few years ago, group of engineers, and they're selling a filter that goes on your washing machine. And they're catching microplastics before they go into the water system, which goes into Lake Erie, which again is what we drink every day. So we're very engaged in that. There's a film about that. Amherst High School, Kim Haney is leading the program. They're doing stuff with that. So again, it's all part of our outreach and coordination where we're doing screenings of this microplastics film throughout the county and trying to help educate people and say, can we build a better world?
Finally, where can people go to get more information on Lorain County Metro Parks and connect with you?
We have a website, which is www.loraincountymetroparks.com. We have a whole lot of information on there, offerings, maps, programs. We do that Arrowhead publication, which has a lot of information about our programs. We have a robust presence on a lot of the platforms, Instagram and Facebook. We reach a lot of people that way.
Thank you, Jim, for joining us and sharing your insights.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast. Each episode, we share conversations with the people shaping life in Lorain County, from business and government to education, nonprofits, healthcare, and entertainment. Be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. You can also visit LorainCounty.com to discover local events, volunteer opportunities, and more community resources. If you know someone who's making a difference in Lorain County, send us a note at podcast@LorainCounty.com. We would love to share their story and insights. Special thanks to our producer, Leah Gerke, and to you for listening. This has been the LorainCounty.com Insights Podcast, conversations with the people shaping Lorain County.